Hello friends, it's Astrologer Saruj, and do subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon in order to receive the notifications for the upcoming videos, and enjoy the amazing and research-based content of Vedic astrology. I hope that you'll see the difference, and I request all the viewers of this channel to share the videos as much as possible in order to preach the amazing content, and in order to make this free access possible to all those who need valid content on Vedic astrology. Now we are discussing the impact of Ketu in the first house. So as I have mentioned, Rahu and Ketu, they are the malefic planets for all the ascendants. And the another point is that Ketu is a malefic planet for all the ascendants, and its malefic impact becomes more malefic when Ketu is placed in 6th house, it's placed in 8th house, or it's placed in the 12th house. In such cases, its impact gets twice, what we call it gets doubled. Now, what is the impact of Ketu? Is Ketu favorable? Is Ketu benefic, always benefic in case of its placement in the first house? This is wrong. When I have mentioned that Ketu is malefic planet, its placement in the first house, its placement in the lagna, it will not give fruitful results at all. Now it is the case whether the impact is long lived or whether the impact is short lived, that we have to discuss in this short video, or in this short podcast on the impact of Ketu when it's placed in the first house or the lagna. Now, before discussing it, we have to see the impact of Ketu. If moon, for example, in any Cancer ascendant chart, moon is sitting with Ketu, and we have to see whether the conjunction is defined or not. If Ketu is aspected by Saturn, for example, in a Cancer ascendant chart, and if the aspect is defined, in such case, if it's afflicted by another malefic planet, for example, if it's afflicted by Saturn, for example, the impact of Ketu becomes more dangerous when it's afflicted by another malefic impact. The malefic impact of Ketu becomes more pronounced in such charts. That is another point that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, the impact of Ketu, depending on the strength of lagna, the Chandra in this chart, the moon in this chart, depending on the strength of moon in this chart, we can say that the impact of Ketu, to what extent the impact of Ketu will be defined. And do remember it that the impact of Ketu in every lagna, that's different, depending on the relative problem of Ketu that's happening in the chart. That's different for every ascendant, because the nature of every chart is different. The placement of different planets across the horoscope, that are different. The longitudinal difference, the degrees, the placements, the aspects, that are quite different. That's why we are seeking birth details from the natives. So the main point to discuss about Ketu's placement in the first house is that it's malefic planet. It will not give fruitful results to the native at all. Now it depends whether the other planets in the lagna chart, in the natal chart, are strong. In the case of Cancer ascendant, let us start discussing. In case of Cancer ascendant chart, if moon is strong, the problem done by Ketu to the native, that will be quite low. That would be quite low, depending on the strength of moon. And it's also important to see the strength of other few planets in the birth chart as well. Now, as I have said, that the impact of Ketu in case of its placement in the first house, that is different in the case of every lagna, depending on the spread of planets across the horoscope. If Ketu creates problems, one category is that we say its impact is pronounced, what we call long-lived impact. And when the impact will be long-lived, it's the job of an astrologer to analyze whether its impact is long-lived or not. And in such cases, Ketu creates mental retardedness to the native. It's quite important mental problems to the native. He's facing strange mental issues. Mental peace is lost isn't it? And he faces fevers, he faces ulcers, the native faces multiple boils, stomach disorders, and injuries, and spoils relationships, partnerships, business partnerships, setbacks to business partnerships, setbacks to marital life, and setbacks to general fortune as well. So these are the basic and general problems that are faced by Ketu in placed in the first house, and it is the case where the impact of Ketu is long lived. And now the question arises, how to control Ketu? That's the remedy. That is the job of the astrologer, to control Ketu in such cases. I have said that Ketu will never give benefic results to any ascendant, irrespective of whether it splits in first house, second house, or another house. The results will be different. The problems done to the native, that will be different depending on the placement, but the results and the impact of Ketu is always malefic. It's never benefic. And it's my suggestion, it's my recommendation to all the ascendants of, to all the Cancer ascendants, please and please, you remove cat's eye. If you are wearing cat's eye, you remove it, because the problems, the losses, and you have been in cut off, general cut off, you are remaining detached from the people, you have detached yourself from the people, and you are not liking it, isn't it? You have faced a detachment from the people after wearing cat's eye, and because it's a malefic planet, it won't give any beneficial results, not at all. So it's my recommendation to remove cat's eye. Never use cat's eye gemstone, because it will be dangerous for you. If in the transit, if in the birth chart for some time, it gives positive results. In exceptional cases, extremely exceptional cases, it gives beneficial results. Otherwise the impact is quite malefic in all the ascendants. And so far as the transit is concerned, the impact of Ketu in transit, when you are wearing a cat's eye, its impact becomes more dangerous in transit astrology. So that's why the native himself is unaware about the fact that he's facing problems due to cat's eye he's wearing, isn't it? So this point needs to be focused. So one of the most important challenge, and that's faced by the native having Ketu placement in the first house, is the disturbance in the marital life, setbacks to marital life, problems and impediments rather in conceiving a baby, isn't it? He might feel also acidity in the stomach, extremely acidity in the stomach as well. He will also face in many cases urinary infection as well. It depends on the nature of the chart. I'm not generalizing, it depends, but these results are evident in many cases. It does create such problems. It will be creating many problems to the spinal cord of the native as well. So there are many issues that are faced by the native having Ketu placement in the first house. Now, so far as the impact of Ketu, its short-lived impact is concerned, that impact is faced. So far as the long-lived impact is concerned, that is defined irrespective of the time period of Ketu, irrespective of Antardasha of Ketu, and irrespective of Antardasha of Mahadasha of Ketu, irrespective of time period of Ketu. Now, so far as the short-lived time period is concerned, short-lived impact of Ketu is concerned, it only gets operated when the time period of Ketu, that's when the sub period or the main period, Mahadasha or the Antardasha of Ketu is in operation. The impact of Ketu starts manifesting in the life of the native when the impact is short-lived. The short-lived impact that requires the time period of Ketu, that requires the Mahadasha or the Antardasha of Ketu. So that's the main point to be taken into consideration. Another side of the coin is the transit. We have to see the placement of Ketu in the transit, and depending on the nature of Ketu in the first house, the nature of Ketu in the first house in a specific horoscope, and the placement, the transit placement of Ketu, whether the affliction is from transit chart to birth chart, whether the affliction is from transit to transit, whether the affliction is from transit to natal, whether the affliction is from birth chart to transit chart. So these factors taken all in simultaneously into consideration, they play an important role to analyze the impact of Ketu. And in most cases, when the Ketu becomes stationary, it causes deadly problems to most of the natives, When it becomes stationary, it creates deadly problems to most of the natives. And irony is that they are wearing cat's eye. Wearing cat's eye, it creates multiple problems to the natives, to the Cancer Ascendant natives. So it's my recommendation to remove cat's eye as soon as possible if you are wearing cat's eye, because the faces and the problems that you are facing in your life are due to cat's eye placed in the first house. So there are specific remedies in both cases, when the impact is long lived, when in the impact is short lived. In both cases, remedies are given in multiple forms depending on the extent of problem faced in the chart, depending on the relative impact of Ketu in a specific horoscope. The charities and other remedies, for example, what will be the remedies, that will be decided depending on the nature of the chart. It's not in the general that do this, do this, do this. No, we have to see the nature of the chart. We have to analyze the nature of the chart. We have to analyze the strength of other planets in the chart that are quite important for Ketu to be controlled. And we have to see the aspects of other planets. If any favorable aspect is going to Ketu, if its unfavorable aspect is going to Ketu, that is also to be analyzed. And we have to see the interrelationship of planets across the horoscope. That's quite important to be analyzed, and then only we can conclusively say how to control Ketu in Cancer Ascendant horoscope, and to what extent Ketu creates problems, and Ketu has been creating problem in a specific Cancer Ascendant chart. So this is all about the Cancer Ascendant chart. Thank you.